Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Heavy Hands. I'm Connor. That's Phil. We're recording in advance today, Phil. Which I should say up top, because for all I know, everything about this card is going to change by the time this episode actually publishes, except, most likely, the fact that it's kind of a shit pay-per-view.
It's a good Fight Night card.
It's a good Fight Night
card. As we
said. Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely nothing more than that.
Yeah.
There are no titles being contested. There aren't even really any, there's not even any contention fights on this, really.
There's nothing about this that, if the card didn't happen, any of these divisions would be different the day after, except perhaps a fight, ironically, which is taking place at a catchweight between two welterweights who are on the cusp of contention. Other than that, right down to the main event, in fact, especially the main event, all of this could just not happen and everyone would remain exactly where they are. We're talking, by the way, of course, about UFC 279 and its main event, Khamzat Chimaev versus the legend killer, Nate Diaz. Everyone get excited. Phil, are you excited?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's a bit of a wet fart of a main event. Which, unfortunately, again, because it's a pay-per-view, is on the end of a bunch of matchups which are solid and do have some interest. But again, they lack that divisional relevance, and most of them are only marginally less predictable than the main event, which, of course, is the most predictable main event in UFC history. It has to be. Has there ever been a pay-per-view with a squash match like this at the top?
Demetrius Johnson, Chris Carriaso, UFC 179.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, even that.
Yeah, there's reason to assume that, maybe Chimaev is raw enough or hittable enough that, or he gets him so he can punch himself out in a way that Diaz could take advantage of. I mean, this is at least
maybe
a nominally championship level fighter against a nominal, someone who has been a championship level fighter. Let's say, against someone who probably is a championship level fighter.
Mm-hmm.
This is. I mean, Diaz is a long way away from contending, but yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing that really gets to the crux of the matter. Really, is that. It's what you said about it. It doesn't matter, really, what happens with this fight. And because this fight is really one of those ones where it's a marker of how much the UFC believes in Chimaev.
Yes.
And we don't actually see this kind of thing happening often, where a fighter is has basically already earned their title shot. And the UFC is so confident that they're going to be a bankable star in the future that they just give them a legend as a complete layup, and are sure that they are going to go and contend after this.
Yeah,
I think the main example of this is obviously Anderson Silva, Israel Adesanya. Izzy already had a title shot in the bag, and they were like, "Would you like to fight Anderson Silva first, so people can find out who you are?" And he said, yes, I would like to do that. That would earn me money and notoriety, and it's not going to be that hard.
And that one made far more sense, honestly. Anderson Silva was much closer, I think, to his prime and much closer to having a style that could actually trouble Izzy than Nate Diaz is, either of those things for Chimaev.
Yeah, and he was a much better fighter at his peak.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, the Diaz, Nate Diaz still has a bit of that mystique of being able to pull things out of the bag even when they're going against him.
Mm-hmm.
The Diaz excuses have been pulled out for every fight that he's lost.
Mm-hmm.
That he wasn't given a chance to come back against Masvidal, and he obviously viciously knocked out Leon Edwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In some ways making him the lineal champion. But obviously the fact of the matter is that this is all very much wishful thinking, because other than that, he's just looked like shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for the last few casuals who haven't realized that Nate Diaz has like fallen off and also was like never suited to fight a guy like Chimaev. That like there are matchups where Nate Diaz, this is not any hate on Nate Diaz. I love Nate Diaz. And his style was like suited to give trouble to a guy like Conor McGregor specifically. Conor McGregor is not Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev is giant Khabib. And, he's just going to do whatever he wants. Like, I think, honestly, the chances of the legendary Nate Diaz comeback, which, frankly, has not really ever happened all that often. He almost did it to Leon, but couldn't put him away. Who else has Nate Diaz actually, gotten his ass beaten by and then come back to finish them late? Is it?
Well, I mean, Conor sort of.
Yeah. If 2 rounds counts as late. Yeah, but otherwise, it's like there's only a couple of examples, and most of those are near misses. Mm-hmm. And then the problem here is that in order to get to that point, you're not fighting Leon Edwards. You're fighting a guy who is going to be taking chunks out of you along the way, who is bigger, stronger, way too good a wrestler for your level of wrestling defense, and a brutal, punishing top control fighter. So it's way more likely that Chimaev finishes Nate Diaz well before it gets to the 5th round than it is that Nate Diaz somehow comes back and knocks Chimaev out. Then there's so many other factors backing that up. I mean, we've just learned that Khamzat Chimaev has a hell of a beard. So the chances of one-shot KOing this dude or getting him so hurt you can finish him off in Nate Diaz style seem quite slim. We know he's got great conditioning. We know that he has the kind of style that ensures that even as he gets tired, he's always less tired than his opponent because they're being brutalized the entire time. He's such a dominant fighter. And we also have examples of Nate Diaz. We have way more examples of Nate Diaz being taken down and smushed from top position than we do examples of Nate Diaz being put there repeatedly and then submitting someone from guard.
I mean, to be honest, we have more examples of Nate Diaz badly gassing out.
That too.
Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the legendary Diaz cardio, I think we've raised this point before, was in some ways contextual. Mm-hmm. They had better conditioning than everyone at the time, but everyone does road work. Everyone does tons of strength and conditioning now. And again, there's that style thing. We're like, how do you stay fresher than Chimaev while sort of just conceding Chimaev's fight? That's not how you beat Khabib. That's not how you beat RDA. That's not how you beat Chimaev.
Yeah. And yeah, the other point that we've raised before is just that I said, after I think one of the two, I think it was after the second Conor McGregor fight, I was just like, he's never going to be able to make lightweight again. Mm. But that's really a problem for him because he's glacially slow at either weight class, but at least at lightweight he was able to bully people.
Yeah, he was big and had reach, and yeah,
the size difference between him and Michael Johnson was pretty right. Enormous.
Yeah,
but so most of the people that he's been fighting or trying to fight in this current run are former lightweights. Mm-hmm. That was another thing I said. I don't think he's. I mean, this is one of the reasons why this booking is such a shock to me, because he does seem to have gone out of his way to basically fight people from his old division, mm-hmm. or Anthony Pettis and Jorge Masvidal, and yeah, I mean, he was a good lightweight who then grew out of the division into being an okay-ish welterweight.
Yeah,
but Chimaev is clearly somewhere between a welterweight and a middleweight. He is a very big man.
He's a middleweight. I mean, he would have, just like Jailton Almeida, like he could go up a division and beat tons of guys. You know, like he's more than big enough to do that, and more than athletic enough to crush people in the middleweight division for sure.
Yeah. You know, you look at stuff like the Masvidal fight. You don't even need to go and look back at Rory McDonald to watch Diaz fighting his, last serious, last opponent with serious wrestling credentials at welterweight, because Masvidal was like constantly taking him down and beating him up.
Yep. Not that Masvidal isn't a good wrestler, but
yeah.
So is Chimaev. So is Chimaev. So, it's just a horrific style matchup for a man who has not been close to his prime for like 5 years now.
He's, as we said in the Pettis fight, his ability to pressure his ability to effectively pressure without just walking into people in a sort of, an uglier version of his big brother's style, means that he needs the clinch a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially we've just seen him getting torched in the clinch by better clinch fighters.
Yeah.
Ever since the Pettis fight. He's just going to end up there a lot. I mean, it's just going to be a slaughter.
Yeah. Let's do our due diligence, I suppose. Let's say, like, what are the things Nate Diaz brings to the table here? Are there any avenues other than the incredibly improbable situation in which he just survives and Chimaev punches himself out, that Nate Diaz, any advantages he has? I will note he does actually have a reach advantage. I think of about 3 inches, but Chimaev is 2 inches taller. So we're looking at more or less the same reach. Is there often some interest there when a guy who's just used to being way bigger than his opponents faces up against someone who can touch him at the same range? Sure. Gilbert Burns, with his short little arms, he touched Chimaev. It didn't win him the fight. It didn't seem to hamper Chimaev's confidence at all. The idea that he might be hit back whenever he was stepping into hit. I mean, he's perfectly comfortable in the pocket with shorter-armed fighters where they can try to trade with him.
Yep.
So I don't see that being a significant factor. I
think it's just got to be... I think it's just got to be whether Chimaev has any significant issues against southpaws going deep.
Yeah.
Because pretty much everyone we've seen him go up against is orthodox, apart from Gerald Meerschaert, which is, in some ways a classic, a classic thing that everyone does against southpaws, in that he just, chased him down and tried to hit him with a big right hand.
Yeah.
We've seen that Chimaev can be lured into, well, not necessarily lured into, but can just be drawn into fights where he's just going to swing and try and, like, outpunch people.
Yeah.
If he gets stuck in in an open stance matchup and he just tries to repeat the Meerschaert performance over and over again, you could potentially see him punching himself out. You could see the entries coming harder to him because, again, he's trying to get in on the right leg rather than the left, and having to cover more space. But these are like difficult. This is very like thin, like chinks of light to look for if you are a Nate Diaz fan.
Oh yeah, because even if I guess that's Nate's best chance. Honestly, is a dick measuring contest. I mean, there's some reason. A dick
measuring contest from someone who doesn't know how to measure penises when the feet are in that position.
It looks different from underneath. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he just tries to like swing right hands over and over again, he starts walking into the right hook.
Right.
A bunch, then, or lands. Yeah. Nate can start landing clean 1-2s. That I mean, it's really just it.
Yeah,
he
gets
really
frustrated by a southpaw jab. I mean, yeah, there's some wrinkles,
yeah.
and all of this is only really an issue if Chimaev allows it to be, because ultimately he can probably walk through whatever he needs to walk through in the first layer or two and just grab Nate Diaz and wrestle him whenever he wants.
Yeah, because Nate's so foot slow that he can just walk into him.
And the hand speed. I mean, even if Chimaev does try to awkwardly measure dicks with Nate, he's just faster and more powerful and similarly durable. Probably at this point far more durable. So he could probably it wouldn't even be insane for him to be like, oh, this is a layup. I should go in there and make it entertaining and crush Nate on the feet and just do it. I mean, that's way more likely than Nate surviving that fight and coming back to win. So that's it. I mean, there really is nothing more to say about the main event. Chimaev's awesome. Nate Diaz is awesome. This fight is a layup. That's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen, and he's traditionally treated layups, as they should be. It's one of the things that's made him a star. He just goes in, when he's given someone to absolutely splatter, he goes in and he absolutely splatters them.
Yeah, utter scorn when it's warranted, and it seems perfectly warranted here. So I guess I hope for that. I hope, because Nate's going to get some moments. He's going to have a couple maybe nice bits of defense. He's going to land some jabs, but that's the only chance.
I would be completely unsurprised if he got leeched.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just gets or mirror sharded. I mean,
I would be more surprised if he got mirror sharded, because he's never been one punch KO'd. Came close to getting one KO'd against
Thompson.
I was gonna say Masvidal, and he boosted him in the head on the fence.
Thompson TKO'd him. Conor McGregor dropped him 3 times in the early going. I mean, he's still not easy to finish, but that's just going to become more and more likely the older he gets, and if he continues fighting dudes like Chimaev, I wouldn't be shocked at all, really. I mean, it would be something, I suppose, to talk about, but if Chimaev just walks out and just decks Nate Diaz, that's okay.
Yeah, you're right.
One of the ways this could have gone. So, that's the main event. Let's take a break. When we come back, better fights, frankly. Better fights. We've got the Leech versus Tony Ferguson, which at first I was nothing but depressed about, but I actually think might be a very interesting fight for however long it lasts. Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez is a beautiful fight. It's the best fight on the card. Not only is it somewhat relevant to its division, which it ironically is not actually taking place in. They're fighting at a catchweight, which is cool. It's the most competitive and unpredictable looking matchup on the card by far. And that we've got Johnny Walker, Ion Cutelaba, which rules in a completely different way. And Hakeem Dawodu versus Julian Erosa. Predictable, but guaranteed entertainment. We're going to try and cover all of those after this.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this week's Heavy Hands. If you like what you hear, please consider pledging to support the podcast on Patreon. Patreon is basically continuous crowdfunding. You sign up to contribute a certain amount per month to help us with production costs and the like, and in return you get rewards ranging from a mention on the Heavy Hands website to a question or topic of your choice being discussed on the show. We have a lot more in the works to reward you for your help, and we appreciate every contribution. No amount is too small. Just head over to patreon.com and find how you can help out, the only show dedicated to the finer points of face punching. Now let's get back to it.
Welcome back to Heavy Hands. We are moving on down through the undercard of UFC 279, which, frankly, just by default is more interesting than the main event. again, the idea of Chimaev getting a squash match and treating it like a squash match, there's some appeal to that. Even if, Nate doesn't deserve it, but he signed up for it. There's at least some appeal to, because so many fighters will whiff on that layup, I don't expect Chimaev to completely play it safe, and if he does, he's going to play it dominantly safe and violent. But, as soon as we get into the undercard, we start getting into fights that are marginally less predictable, and significantly less predictable, honestly, even though many of them still do appear quite one-sided. The first of those, I think, is Li Jingliang, the Leech, versus Tony Ferguson. And Phil, you were asking me to explain my comment at the end of the previous segment where I said I think this might not be that bad. And it's mostly because of how Tony looked against Michael Chandler. Now, assuming that knockout, which is the first of its kind, and unfortunately probably not the last, maybe there's some new trepidation. Now Tony knows that he can just be straight up murked with a single shot. But, knowing Tony Ferguson, I don't think that's the kind of thing that really bothers him. He's always been a guy who's been perfectly willing to get hit, to let a fight be messy. My sort of working theory to try to explain the difference between what we saw in that last fight of Tony's, which he looked, I think we can all agree, quite good, especially relative to how he'd looked leading up to it. He looked very good. Is the sort of slow lessening of pressure. That's how Tony looked to me, was a guy who was relaxed and comfortable and willing to try things again. Because one of the main things we saw in that losing streak, a couple of the main things, were Tony looking very stiff and very hesitant, which is not something you expect to see out of Tony Ferguson, clearly not something that works for Tony Ferguson. When he is on, he's aggressive, he's flowing, he's creative. That's Tony Ferguson at his best. And that is how he looked against Michael Chandler. He was very aggressive, pressuring right from the outset. He was putting strikes together. He was, stringing together combinations. He was countering. Everything was kind of clicking. And so for that reason, I think he may very well take the first round off the Leech. Obviously the durability is a concern, but the Leech is famously a bit of a slow starter. He's got elements of his style that sort of correspond with things that have always worked against Tony. He's an accurate puncher. He's just a skilled boxer in general. Very good counter puncher. Does that sound a little bit like Michael Johnson, who beat Tony all those years ago? Yeah. But there's also elements of Tony's game that I think could make the Leech uncomfortable. There's a slim possibility that he does some significant out-wrestling. Even if it means just like catching a kick, getting a sort of lucky takedown. That's certainly a way that the Leech has tended to lose his fights. And otherwise, we saw him look uncomfortable against the size, the frame of Neil Magny, and make some bad decisions as a result. And we know that he is almost always a slow starter who has to kind of get dinged up before he zeroes in and finds starts finding the kill shots. So I think we're in for a good round at the very least. Although I ultimately do expect the Leech to win by virtue of being like a young man still.
Uh-huh.
Does that sound reasonable enough?
Yeah, I think so. So I guess the question is really, how much better did Tony look against Michael Chandler than he did against like Beneil Dariush? How much did him looking good against Chandler? How much was that a function of how Chandler fought as opposed to how Dariush fought? Because I think it was also that Chandler was backing up a lot, looking for a big counterpunch for a single knockout, which, to be fair, I guess he eventually got. But and Dariush himself was a lot more kind of aggressive, both transitionally and in the way he was approaching the fight, and also just in the way that until the knockout, Chandler was sort of relatively one note in how he was going about things. I mean, I think we've praised his preparation for fighters before. I think he didn't have I don't think he thought I need a very deep game plan to beat modern Tony Ferguson.
No,
frankly.
I think he thought I can do a Justin Gaethje. I could just run him onto devastating shots, which ultimately he did. But, yeah. But, how's the Leech going to approach it?
So, I mean, I think the main two, the sort of way that the Leech tends to work his way into fights is that he's a big jab and low kick guy. And whilst I trust Tony Ferguson to deal with jabs, and he's actually, be quite good at it. He's difficult to get his timing down. I think perhaps even at this stage in his career, he feints a lot. He moves. You don't know when he's throwing. He's a decent counterpuncher. He mixes up his targets and so on and so forth.
He's got reach.
And he fights very long.
Yeah.
I think I don't necessarily trust Tony Ferguson to be able to deal with low kicks anymore.
Sure.
Because that is another common factor between the Dariush and the Oliveira fights. Is that he was just getting his legs kicked out whenever they were at range, and so he became less sure as to what he was going to do. I don't know what these two are going to look like physically. Again, I would like to hope that as he's, moving up to welterweight, we would see more relaxation from Tony. He's not having to cut. He's more confident in his ability to take strikes. And I think that's a lot of why his, again, that's another reason why he disintegrated quite so badly in some of those fights, is that he would try like crazy Tony Ferguson spinning away from things, and he would just get clipped, and he was like, it was hurting him more than it used to.
Yeah.
But, hopefully he's just gonna feel better in himself. I think, again, I totally co-sign that's the reason to be a little more happy about this. So, I mean, I think, if all things work for him, I think this can end up looking like a scrappier version of a sort of scrappier, slower version of his fight against RDA. If he's able to counter the low kicks, if he's able to dictate exchanges and make sure that the Leech can't get his jab going, then I just think, there is a chance that Tony Ferguson can pull it out. But other than that, I don't trust him to deal with the low kicks. I think that, like, the Leech, we remember that he got his nickname because of, his body locks and so on. He can probably out-wrestle Tony Ferguson at this point.
Yeah, he probably can.
Tony Ferguson is not, they're probably going to end up in the clinch at some point, and Tony just hasn't been difficult to out-wrestle for pretty much anyone.
No.
For quite some time.
Yeah, which is a good sign for the Leech if he has the same freak out he had against Neil Magny. That at least it might work.
Yeah, exactly. Because the size difference is going to be going quite significantly in the other direction now for the Leech. He's no longer going to be locking up with, 6'3" Neil Magny. He's going to be locking up with 5'11" Tony Ferguson, the lifetime lightweight. Yeah, I mean, there's too much to expect Tony Ferguson to win, but I think you're right. There's definitely the ingredients. If you think of him being faster than the Leech, if you think of him, his ability to maybe control the range with weird stuff. It's just the fact that I think he freaks when he's hurt now.
Yeah,
and he didn't get hurt until the end of that fight, and that just turned his lights out against Chandler. The wrestling. It's too much to bank on him actually having a winning performance.
Yeah, but there's some interest. I think I think again, it's pretty likely he wins the first round because the Leech doesn't have to back off, but I think it's likely he will, at least for periods. He likes to counterpunch. He likes to use his footwork. I mean, most of his most impressive performances lately have not been all-out pressure, aggressive fights. They've been, not knocking out Eliseo Zaleski on the counter, largely just kind of having a kickboxing match with Muslim Salikov.
Yep.
And then there was the fight with Ponzinibbio as well, where he's just kind of like circling around and letting these guys chase him and overcommit. And maybe he won't, because again, part of his reaction to the frame of Neil Magny, I think, was the feeling that I cannot let a guy this big boss me around from range, even though he certainly could have. He could have, pulled a Max Griffin and beaten Neil Magny that way, just by being a better boxer with good timing and being a good counterpuncher.
And just by low kicking him.
It really was a winnable fight for you, Leach. So maybe that prompts him to pressure here. I still think that works better. I mean, I think this is a fight where Tony very much needs to be aggressive to win.
Yeah.
So, which in one hand walks into some of the Leach's best tools, but on the other hand, should give him the opportunity to land a lot, especially early, before the Leach actually sort of keys in his counters. And it will also
Tony's legs start getting chopped out from under him.
Right, and it will take the leg kicks a little more out of the equation if he's insistently pushing the Leach backward the whole time. As long as he's doing that, the Leach is going to have a hard time getting kicks off without getting countered or pushed over or whatever, and it should still be a dangerous proposition for him to end up on his back, whether it's a caught low kick or whatever, against Tony Ferguson. I mean, it's still a place I wouldn't like to be. So, God forbid a front headlock of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's interesting. But I don't trust Tony Ferguson. What it really comes down to. He's less durable than he used to be. Him moving up in weight hopefully means he takes shots better. Sometimes it is the opposite. Sometimes it's you move up in weight.
Sometimes it's Chris Weidman or Luke Rockhold. Or...
Exactly. And all of these guys are just feel heavy-handed in a way that people in the lower division didn't, despite being faster and everything. The Leach is quick-handed and heavy-handed and accurate. So he's going to land some hurtful shots on Tony, no doubt. And how Tony responds to those, I think, will be very significant. I tend to agree with what you said, that like Tony now knows in a way he never had to acknowledge before that he can be hurt. He has to know he can be knocked out with a single punch now. And it clearly doesn't sit as well with him as it used to. He feels the shots more. And the Leach is going to land those shots. And he's going to do a little working of the body. He's going to be chopping at Tony's legs whenever he gets a chance. He might be able to out-wrestle him from the body lock or just hit a shot. Tony might do some weird shit and just go to his back, like trying to go for some weird somersault kick or something, those are opportunities a disciplined, competent fighter like the Leach will be more than happy to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment in the Salikov fight where, Salikov did some spinning stuff and Leach just body locked him and threw him over.
Yep. So you can't not pick Li Jingliang, but I think there are some chances for Tony here, and I think even in the version of the fight Li Jingliang wins, Tony has some good moments. So it's all right. It's depressing, but it is what it is. Tony's not going to quit fighting, so what can you do? All of his fights are going to be depressing. This is a reasonable matchup, I think. It's not so far beyond his level that it feels like a squash match in the way the main event does.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so let's talk about the best fight on the card. And then we will squeeze two more into a hopefully shorter third segment. This will be the long one, folks, because we are about to discuss a catchweight bout being contested at 180 pounds. Not sure of the reason, but happy to see it, between Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez, who has, since his, I think, short notice debut, in which he beat Tim Means by knockout in a very solid performance, has just sort of quietly been one of my favorite fighters. I really like the way Daniel Rodriguez fights. I think he is the picture of a welterweight dark horse. And for that reason, this fight, like new breed Kevin Holland and the guy who keeps winning and really should be undefeated, he should have beat Nicholas Dalby, that everyone just overlooks. They just haven't heard of him yet, but he's very good. This is a good fight. Very good fight.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Rodriguez was out with a pretty badly broken hand. So hopefully that hasn't impacted his training or recovery in any way.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily want someone to be jumping back in when they're not fully ready. But yeah, he is a quality fighter for the division.
Mm-hmm.
Just a very good boxer, I think. And he's got the frame and the sort of calmness to make it work. And yeah, he's someone where I think I sort of said this about Kevin Lee when Kevin Lee was coming up. I kind of feel like for similar reasons, I said, I thought D-Rod was just a bad matchup for him. And in a weird inverted way, I feel like he might end up being quite a bad matchup for Kevin Holland as well, who is coming down a weight class.
Interesting. Yeah, I have very mixed feelings on how I think this fight might go. Mostly because I'm not sure what to make of Kevin Holland's welterweight game, and the fact that he seems to be like a bruising power puncher now, and that he's got like a whole new bullying mindset. I'm not yet sure what to make of it. So what makes you think that Rodriguez might be bad for him?
Yeah, it's essentially that. Like, if this was a matchup between who I think of as being middleweight Kevin Holland, but at welterweight, and Daniel Rodriguez, I would be like much more. I don't know. I would be much more curious about how it would go. But as you said, like Holland has just been a bit of a swinger down at welterweight, just kind of throwing himself at his opponents and just on the understanding that he can just get them out of there if he hits them.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to kind of work off his jab and go between his jab and his clinch and all this other kind of stuff has really fallen by the wayside to a shocking amount.
It has,
despite the fact that he's having like career best success, although admittedly career best success against people who are not only a weight class below the one that he used to fight at, but who are all kind of on the tail end of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, it was more impressive certainly when D-Rod beat Tim Means than when Kevin beat him.
Mm-hmm.
He also, I think, did a more impressive job of it. I mean, if we're looking at how Kevin might fare in the pocket with a southpaw counterpuncher, I mean, the first impactful thing in that fight was Tim Means rocking him with a left hook counter. A shot which Kevin ran into multiple times. I mean, until Tim Means started getting hurt, I don't think it was clear at all who was winning that fight.
Mm-hmm.
That he was able to, he's so wild that he leaves huge openings. And Rodriguez, I mean, he did it to Tim Means. Rodriguez is a very capable counterpuncher who uses a good, I mean, even if it's just his jab, he's got a great jab. It's probably the best part of his game. And that's the first layer counter. I mean, if you're just dashing forward chin first, you're going to run into a right jab that is difficult to deal with. And he's going to be using it to change his angle and reset, because that's the other element of D-Rod's game that marks out how quality his boxing skill is his footwork. It's not bouncy and agile. It's just like casual small steps that work in concert with his punches and that force the opponent to reset and have to keep adjusting to kind of get their sights back on him. Capable footwork, good low-key boxing skill, and working with the jab. So yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. I don't know. Can Kevin Lee still do what he did at middleweight? Like,
you mean Kevin Holland?
Kevin Holland, yeah. Can he, like? I would love to see D-Rod having to deal with his jab.
Yeah,
like that's very interesting. And Kevin, even at this weight class, is quick. You know, he used to be a pretty good defensive fighter. So I don't know. I just don't know what to expect out of this version of Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, so if we look back at Rodriguez's only official loss in the UFC. It's only official loss as a professional, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It was against Dalby. I mean, admittedly, that was.
Oh no, he had one lost a split to Victor Reina in his fifth pro fight.
Dalby was kind of looking a bit more like modern Kevin Holland, in that he just stayed super far away and just pecked with kicks and threw single strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't even actually particularly want to say that Dalby made the fight close, because I really don't think that he did. I think it was
he didn't
it was
win.
A genuine. It is one of those ones where I genuinely do think it's kind of a robbery.
Yeah,
I wanted Dalby to win it, and I just watched it. I was like, "You're just not winning this."
Yeah.
But I think Holland is probably someone who can win robbery decisions based on the kind of Benson Henderson smoothness factor of him just never feeling like he's concerned by what's happening.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the main flaws with Rodriguez's style. As you said, he's got efficient footwork, but I don't think he's particularly fast when it comes to tracking people down. He did spend a lot of that fight kind of following Dalby around the cage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's way better. He's one of these fighters like Joe Louis is always my go-to example. He's very good positionally when it comes to navigating the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
If you're out there in space with him, or you're trying to put methodical pressure on him, he will find all the right angles and keep himself well aligned and well protected behind his jab, and chase your center line and hide his. I mean, that's the kind of positioning he's good at. When it comes to generalship, I do think that's an area where he's a little less competent. But also, I kind of think like we're probably going to see Kevin Holland dashing forward a lot. I mean, in a way, that's always been the sort of best in the sense of most dangerous part of Kevin Holland's game. That win over Jeff Neal years ago that I've brought up so many times. That is Kevin Holland running after Jeff Neal. And pressuring him and running him into big looping like right hands against the fence. And that's ultimately the best success he had against Means, too, was just like walking him down and swinging on him. But Means isn't as good with his positional footwork as Rodriguez. He does back up in straight lines and kind of hop away when people swing at him, and Rodriguez doesn't tend to do that. He will just stick his jab out there and little sidestep, and okay, now you have to adjust. You're not running me over.
Yeah, he's good at changing his positions as he throws. He will jab, then he will change his position and right hook off the jab, and then follow up with the left hand. Like he's a schooled boxer. He's just nice to look at.
Yeah, agreed. It's like understated and effective.
Holland does have, I think basically Holland's edges in this fight are mostly physical. I think he is the puncher.
Weird to say. I mean, Rodriguez is a very solid puncher in his own right, but yeah.
But yeah, I think he hurts people, I think, because he finds the right spot.
Yeah.
And because and more because he finds it over and over.
And he sets things up well.
He's knocked someone out with one punch, apart from the Tim Means. That
was a salvo. I think the Preston Parsons knockout, the most meaningful win on Rodriguez's record, I think that was like a one-shot KO. But yeah, typically it's placement, setup, accuracy.
So yeah, Holland is faster. He probably hits harder, and he's almost certainly more durable, because he's more durable than almost anyone.
Yeah.
But other than that, I do think that just Rodriguez's ability to to just navigate the pocket against this version of to counterpunch on the way in, I think is just not good for this version of Holland, who just seems increasingly convinced that people are just going to fall over if he goes after them.
Yeah, he's so wild, so wide open. And Rodriguez, you have to say he's not as durable as Kevin, because we've seen him get dropped. but that was also in a fight where he pretty quickly got back to his basics and came back to turn in a really good performance. So he's capable of recovering. He will rely on his fundamentals when he's in trouble, and he's exactly the kind of fighter who, if you hurt him and then you get especially crazy because you think you're going to finish him, that is when he's very dangerous because his fundamentals don't go away. Does he? I mean, can he overswing in the pocket when he thinks he's got his target lined up? Yes, and they look like worse misses because he's not as fast or agile as a guy like Kevin Holland, so he could take a little more time to recover. But this is in the context of just good, solid fundamentals that he will, as quickly as he can, get back to, make the right steps, keep his guard up, keep looking for counters, keep his jab in the opponent's face. So, yeah, I'm picking Daniel Rodriguez here. I think he's just well positioned to outfight Kevin. I mean, he's just craftier and more consistently skilled. I think it's going to be a win of discipline over confidence and bravado.
Yeah, I would love to see, as always, I would love to see the return of those moments of brilliance that you get from Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
If he can bring that back out and, bring it out more consistently over the course of the fight. I'd love to see him working the body or working his jab, but I just feel like, against a crafty southpaw, this is exactly the kind of fight where he's going to be more likely to sell out on big swings.
Yeah.
Less likely to, no. But, the Jeff Neal fight is it's a glimmer of hope. Because that was against a crafty southpaw. And it was still one of Holland's best performances. So working the body, working his jab, getting his clinch game going. I think Rodriguez is very strong. I don't think that's in question. He's strong and he's good in the clinch. But I'd love to see Kevin Holland do well. But I just gotta pick Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm. And I don't even think of it as a glimmer of hope that Kevin might win, because I'd be perfectly happy to see Rodriguez climb a little higher on Kevin's back. I like Kevin in a way where, as I've said pretty much from the start, it's fine if he loses, even though he's one of my favorite fighters. He's just too wild, too unpredictable. It's expected. Rodriguez, I think, is solid. He's very solid.
And, there's a sense that he would deserve this.
Exactly. Yeah. If Rodriguez gets this win, it's some profile, and then maybe he gets a ranked fight. Maybe they feed Luque or someone to him, and suddenly Daniel Rodriguez is in the title picture. And I'd be more than happy to see that, because I love fighters who rely on their craft and skill. And as much as Rodriguez is tough, he's strong, he's powerful, he really is a guy who wins because he's got good basic technique.
Mm-hmm. And he started MMA sort of relatively late, started in 2015.
Yep.
And he's not that young. He's 35, so he is, I believe, older than Kevin Holland. So it's one of those ones where he doesn't have that much, and if he's already picking up major injuries.
Yeah.
He doesn't have long to do this.
Yep.
So I wouldn't mind seeing him win at all.
Now's the moment, and he might very well be peaking. I mean, if he gets a little extension of the usual age limit starting late, then this is about 8-9 years into his career. This should be the best Daniel Rodriguez right now. So, I look forward to seeing it. Whoever wins. In fact, I think even though I love Kevin, I think I'll be happier if D-Rod wins. There is that sporting sense of, you did what you're supposed to do. You earned it. That I would very much like to see. It should be a hell of a lot of fun.
And Kevin is not yet 30.
Yeah. He's got time to continue being crazy.
Yep.
All right. So let's take a break with that excellent matchup out of the way. After this, we are going to talk about two other matchups, which are excellent in very different ways. We'll get into that right after this break.
Financial support is fantastic, but there are other, even easier ways to support Heavy Hands. Perhaps the best is by spreading the word. We know our fan base. You're all cool, popular people with serious social media presences. You're tastemakers and trendsetters. Okay, there are one or two of you that don't fit that description. You know who you are, but no matter what, you can always help us out by telling folks about the show. You can also give us a positive rating and review on iTunes and Stitcher, things like that. We rely on word of mouth and positive feedback to grow and improve, so thank you very much for your time and your help. Now, back to the show.
Okay. Light heavyweights, Phil. Light?
Damn, this is light heavyweight.
This is so light heavyweight. Johnny Walker, Iwan Cutelaba, Rage Incarnate versus question mark?
Yeah.
Now I already, I also pre-recorded the Vivi with Zane, so I already got to like sort of dump on someone's hopes. You, of course, are more cynical, more world-wise. That Zane, he's such a naive young kid, He looked at this and thought, ooh, violence. When I look at it, and perhaps when you look at it, we see violence? Is this not a fight where Johnny Walker is going to run away from a man who's too mad to cut off the cage? Is that not an extremely likely version of this fight?
Surely Iwan Cutelaba will simply just start running at him if that happens.
That would be sick.
It would be awesome. Imagine if we literally get just that one sequence from Rousey home, but over and over again.
Yeah.
Just Iwan Cutelaba just frothing at the mouth.
Yeah.
Just bodily throwing himself at a visibly terrified Johnny Walker, and Cutelaba just bouncing off the cage every time.
Yeah, I already said that it could be the modern day Nate Quarry, Caleb Starnes.
Yeah.
Except that Nate Quarry had the presence of mind to mock Caleb Starnes.
Yeah, I know. There's no way.
Iwan is going to be so pissed.
He's going to be shrieking with fury, just froth running down his lips.
I think more likely than him making fun of Walker for running away is him literally crying with rage. Just tears streaming down Cutelaba's face as he just swings at air, just sprinting after Johnny Walker. That is not unlikely that we see that. So
you're trying to make this fight sound awesome, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's awesome in the shittiest way possible. I think we could be in for a historically stupid, bad fight, but the dynamic is such that, you're going to see Cutelaba trying so hard the entire time, if that is what happens, that it can't help but still be entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm down.
That's the thing, say what you like about Iwan Cutelaba. The man... Has he ever been in a bad fight?
No. Yeah. Say what you like about Iwan Cutelaba.
A fight which wasn't entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean a fight which didn't have a baseline level of skill, because he's certainly been in those, but every Iwan Cutelaba fight is fire in its own.
Must see TV, yeah.
Sometimes it's fire from a lit fart kind of thing, but it's always fire.
Yeah, say what you like about Iwan Cutelaba, but say it out of earshot, because he's pissed already. He's really pissed. Yeah, so let's talk about Johnny Walker real quick. Before we just write him off completely, is it possible that Johnny Walker ever figures this style out? Or that he has finally been convinced to do something different? Are either of those likely or at least possible?
No.
I would put B at more likely than A. Because I don't think fighting off the back foot, being cautious, trying to be a sniper from range, suits Johnny Walker psychologically. I don't think he likes doing it. He looks uncomfortable the whole time, which is a death sentence for most fighters, especially ones as just sort of nakedly pathological in their fighting style as Johnny Walker. To be like, hey, you're going to go in there, but actually you're not fighting Iwan Cutelaba. You're fighting Johnny Walker. to go out there and convince him not to win the fight. The other thing is, I don't think SBG are technically equipped to turn Johnny Walker into a good version of that fighter. Like
what?
Much as the range striking of Cathal Pendred,
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
might say otherwise. I don't think they're very good at giving people, or Gunnar Nelson. I don't think they're very good at giving people rich technical boxing games. They're not exactly. John Kavanagh isn't exactly Trevor Whitman.
I want you to circle for a minute and a half and then try and wheel kick him.
Yes, that's the end result. And again, even if I just don't think it suits Johnny Walker, and it's also just not enough, even if it did, to work consistently. So my hope is that Johnny Walker realizes, hey, I was actually, I was losing before half the time, but I was also winning half the time. And I should go out there and try to win. I should punch Iwan Cutelaba and then grab him and elbow him and do stuff to him. Maybe he turns that corner. And I have a lot of hope, but, at least there's some evidence to say that, like, Johnny Walker's comfortable doing that, and it sometimes works for him to maybe be like, I should revert. Yeah?
Yeah. I think it's a possibility, but I think it's hard to draw people back from the siren lure of technicality.
That's right.
Everyone wants to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that he's going to fight at light heavyweight, and you don't just based on sheer variance, right? He's going to just wait around, and if he just waits around and counterpunches, he's fucking 9 feet tall.
Yeah,
huge with it. Like he's the biggest fighter in that division, I think.
And he's
by
a
reasonable margin.
A massive hitter. I mean, it might just happen.
He's gonna finish enough people every now and again that he will be like, oh yeah, this is totally working.
I'm
ironing the kinks out, but it's just the numbers coming up.
Yeah. But is it going to happen here? Is this going to be one where he knocks Cutelaba out?
I mean, it might be.
Could be.
You know what? I watched that Spawn Cutelaba fight,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't realize how much Cutelaba was kind of whipping his ass before he got submitted.
Yeah,
I remembered it as being much more like he was running into Spawn's jab more and stuff like that. But no, it was mostly just Cutelaba was just taking him down constantly and kicking the shit out of him, and then he got submitted.
And the wrestling might be a huge factor here. Johnny Walker's not exactly difficult to take down, and he's not good off of his back.
No, yeah, I think that's the real key issue, is that and Cutelaba knows that. I mean, even if maybe he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know anything. He doesn't.
But... He's got his his stone tablets where he's carved his opponent's weaknesses into them. He's like, Khalil Roundtree, wrestle bad. Try wrestle at start?
Yeah.
No, I think he just goes after people, and then when they start to pull away in certain areas of the fight, he's just instinctively like, I should try and press my advantage here.
I don't even think it goes that far. I think every game plan, which they definitely are scratched onto a piece of rock using a smaller rock, I think every game plan is just, Khalil Roundtree, stupid pussy. Johnny Walker, stupid pussy.
I think it's more likely you find his rocks that he's been carving. He's been sent to carve his game plan into the rocks, and you find the rocks, and he's just furiously pummeled them into pieces. Can we see your game plan this time, E1? It's like, God damn it.
He goes out to write it down and comes back with a handful of gravel. God damn it, E1. Just bites the rocks. Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna press, and more often than not, I mean, it's honestly like probably the best part of Cutelaba's game is his offensive wrestling and his ground and pound.
Yeah.
Since day one, he's got a little Cain Velasquez in him. He loves to have an opponent who's just stuck on their back or is scrambling back to their feet, and he's pretty good at just floating over them and raining down a hell of a lot of strikes. And he may not get all of those scrambles, because the thing is, I don't even know if I can really picture Johnny Walker scrambling that. I think he's like a safety first guy when it goes to the ground, and he'll just clutch guard.
Yeah, I mean, that fight with Krylov was bad.
Maybe that spares you the worst of Cutelaba's top game, but it doesn't win. I mean, how funny will it be if Johnny Walker like armbars just a red-faced Cutelaba off of his back? That also might happen. It's a very stupid fight.
Yeah, it's a possibility. That is 100% the kind of thing that Johnny Walker would be training. And
100% the kind of thing Cutelaba would furiously fall into.
Yeah, because he would get more and more mad that Johnny Walker wasn't trying to do anything off his back.
Yeah.
And he would just make him open himself up more and more, just flailing on him.
Yeah, just make a catastrophic mistake. Very E1 Cutelaba. So, it's going to be awesome, even if it's terrible. It's going to be...
You just can't go wrong with E1 Cutelaba. I mean, I want him to win this fight. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because these guys have struggled in their their last few fights, but E1 Cutelaba, as said, is guaranteed awesomeness every time. He is a perennial contender for Laugh Out Loud Fighter of the Year. And you can't put him in a matchup and have me say, like, oh no, I don't like that.
Yeah. Put him against anyone. Yeah, and also you got to respect his commitment. He would never ever try to become technical.
No.
That's, like all the times that his rage has lost him fights and his terrible decision making, this isn't evidence that he's been doing anything wrong. It's evidence that they're all stupid pussies. They're not fighting right.
He didn't get mad enough.
That's right. But this time he's made sure he's gotten all the rage in the world. That's right. Cut in a clip of Dennis Reynolds saying, I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds.
He truly is. I just if Marvin Vettori ever goes up in weight again, come on, man.
Oh my God. Make that fight now. They don't even have to meet in the same weight class. I don't give a shit. Make that
meet
fight.
Being the operative word, yes.
So yeah, I'm picking E1 because he's going to do stuff, and I think there's every possibility Johnny Walker.
Yes, he will do stuff.
I think there's every possibility Johnny Walker responds very badly to just the increasingly frantic pressure. And does that mean something might happen by accident where he wins? Absolutely, that happens in E1 Cutelaba fights, but it's every bit as likely that Cutelaba runs him over, takes him down, hits him with nasty shots, just literally sprinting, both of them just running a perfect circle around the perimeter of the cage until finally he gets to head kick Johnny Walker from behind. Anything, but I'm going to favor the guy who's doing stuff.
Yep.
Great. I can't wait. Maybe this is the best fight on the card.
In retrospect, it might be the one that I'm now the most excited about.
It's not the best, but it kind of is. Okay, last fight for us to discuss then. This one, I quite like this matchup, even though I think it's fairly predictable. I still have a lot of faith that it will be fun. Hakeem Dawodu versus, or Dawodu, I always change my pronunciation of that, versus Julian Erosa. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Julian Erosa, talked about him a bunch, is one of those guys where I really liked him back in the day and was disappointed that he couldn't make it in his first UFC run, but has since racked up wins over a bunch of genuinely good fighters. All his wins are aging super well.
Yeah, Nate Landwehr, Charles Jourdain, these are incredibly promising wins given what those guys have gone on to do.
But this does look like another tricky one.
The loss to Paddy Pimblett, however.
Yeah, the quote-unquote loss to Paddy Pimblett.
It's aging like the milk, which Paddy Pimblett has drunk.
Yeah. I believe it was actually chocolate. Was it some kind of chocolate milk or whatever the Pimblett was vomiting everywhere?
Wait, was that a thing?
I believe so, yeah.
He was vomiting chocolate milk. He really is a man after my own heart. So much of me wants to hate him, but I just can't. And it is just the fatness, just the unforgivable fatness. It's a very strange accidental reference to the Jack Johnson story there. Unforgivable fatness, the Paddy Pimblett story.
That is... Now you have to write his biography.
That is tasteless. That is very tasteless. Yeah.
See if you can do a riff on the cover, just with a fat Paddy. Sells itself.
Yeah. For those who aren't aware, I may as well explain the reference. Unforgivable blackness is the Jack Johnson story. So, truly a tasteless joke. But yeah, Julian Erosa he's awesome. I mean, he's a guy who, when he loses, 90% of the time is because he just gets KO'd flat in the first round. And not once has it ever affected the way he fights, which is aggressive and confident and with absolutely zero defense. But with that, with that pressure, bringing a dangerous, well-rounded game to his opponents. He's unless you look great, it's difficult to look good against Julian Erosa. And I think there's a possibility that Hakeem Dawodu will run into that problem because on the surface, it's this is a good striker. He's accurate and quick, and he's got good movement, and he's just going to land whenever he wants on Julian Erosa to basically the target of his choosing. But he's not a guy who goes out there and knocks people out instantly or even really seeks to. And I think he would rather fight at a somewhat lower clip. He's not a super low output fighter, and he will match what his opponents bring, which is what's going to happen here. But I can definitely see Julian Erosa making a guy like Hakeem uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think it's one of those ones where I think I'm concerned for the kicking game for Erosa here.
Yeah.
Because it's so much of how his range game operates from the outside is that he just kind of throws out a bunch of big long kicks, and then people get into exchanges with him, and then mostly they hit him.
Yeah,
he is Julian Erosa, but then he's able to chase them out again with by just kind of gritting down and fighting through it.
Mm-hmm.
But Hakeem Dawodu is very difficult to kick.
And he's a very good kicker in his own right. And especially troublesome for Julian because often pressure is a solution to that. Dawodu can kick off the back foot.
Yes.
He can find the right distance. He can set the things up. He can time you just as you're coming into the ideal range and just blast you in the leg or the body or the head with a really fast kick. So...
yeah. So I think that's the general dynamic that I find myself being concerned about because Erosa is, once that dynamic is in place, Erosa is foot slow. He needs his height to really work for him.
Yep.
So he's not going to be chasing down and countering Hakeem off his own kicks.
No.
And yeah, I just kind of expect him to get picked apart a little from that range.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there is just the risk that Hakeem punches hard enough that the ever-present risk of Erosa getting just one punched is there.
You don't have to be a puncher. He's fast and he's super accurate.
Yeah.
Precise, excellent timing. Yeah, all it takes is one of those punches, and even against much tougher fighters, there will be that fight in most guys' careers where somebody just blasts them, and you're like, oh, this guy's not a puncher, but he just hurt him. Mm-hmm. Especially with Julian Erosa, because it's a thing that has happened. I mean, what are the actual numbers? I want to say 6 times he's been knocked out in the first round. 5 knockout losses. First round. Okay,
was Arce the second round?
Arce was the third round.
Oh, third round.
Yep. So we've got first round, third round, first round. Second round, 30 seconds against Teruto Ishihara. So,
I'm still super mad at that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not picking Teruto Ishihara to beat Julian Erosa. He's much worse than him, and everyone else was just like, I was just going to punch him in the face. They were right, goddammit.
God
but
damn
not in
them.
the way that matters.
God damn them. Yeah, it is a critical weakness of Erosa's that he's so hittable, and needs durability to win his fights, and sometimes he's just not durable enough to do it. And he will throw himself into harm's way over and over and over again. So, yeah, that means, I think, a very exciting fight where Dawodu likely has to adjust. But it also means Dawodu will, I think, meet the challenge. And, footwork good enough, capable of getting in the attritive strikes that he likes, most notably the kicks, but also body punches, off the back foot. A solid enough clinch fighter and defensive wrestler that, like, unless you're Movsar I don't expect you to just repeatedly take him down and swamp him. I certainly don't expect Erosa to have the level of offensive wrestling to do that, even though I'm sure he will go for it, and I'm interested to see if he can get some takedowns. But it just looks like a fun fight that Dawodu, barring something truly insane, is kind of destined to win, possibly with a rare finish, because it is Julian Erosa.
Yep. Yeah, you've got to account for it. I don't think it's one you should necessarily call for, but it's it's always a possibility against any kind of puncher.
Yep.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'd take Hakeem probably over the distance.
Sure. Yeah. So, that concludes our undercard, and as we said, it's a pretty good undercard. If it had even for a pay-per-view, if it had a real main event at the top, I'd be happy with this. Are most of the fights...
It's fighters that people know.
Right. That's what matters.
That are going to get people interested in what's happening. But there isn't enough competitive relevance for people like us, I guess.
Yeah, nerds, insufferable nerds. Yeah. There's also, by the way, which we haven't mentioned, but if we had a little more time, I would put this in the Walker Cutelaba category of enjoyment. There's
forgivable fatness.
Yeah, forgivable fatness. Jake Collier, a.k.a. Jake Cudlier, versus the artist formerly known as Huggy Bear, Chris Barnett. By the way, this was something, this has already been on a podcast that you're going to hear the same week as this if you listen to both the shows I do. Who gives a shit? I have to share this with Phil right now. Zane and I have our working theory on what it takes to succeed as a heavyweight.
Dadness, yes.
Dadness. That's the thing that limits whether... we were just talking about, like, Jonathan Almeida, who has a fight on this card, another heavyweight fight. And, like, that dude is, like, apparently, like, posting pictures of him in, like, cargo shorts holding up fish. Like,
wow.
He's
committing to the bit. Yeah, he knows. That's someone who wants to make it.
Yeah, he is dad enough to fight at heavyweight, and that's why he has already succeeded there and will continue to. He's not afraid of these dads. Jake Collier, another light heavyweight who has moved up in the best way possible.
He's a middleweight.
Former middleweight, who's the only way for a middleweight to go to heavyweight, unless you're like Anthony Johnson, is the route that Jake Collier took. His actual name, and this explains it all, his actual name is Rodney Collier. Rod Collier. If that isn't a dad's name.
Yeah.
Right? Jake is boyish. Jake is a middleweight's name.
Yeah, that is true. He needs to change his name back.
Yeah. Go with the first name. Go with Rod. Because...
Rod Collier, and you saw a fat heavyweight, you'd just be like, yes, that is what I am looking at.
I'm picturing a snooker player when I hear the name Rod Collier. I'm picturing a 48-year-old balding man who definitely has children smoking in a pool hall. So, that explains the success he's had at heavyweight. It explains why I think he's probably going to win this fight, because Chris Barnett has fun uncle energy. He's never really been a true heavyweight in that sense. And Rod Collier, he's my dad. He is my dad.
Yep. In the squabbling at the family barbecue that inevitably breaks out.
Yep.
It's Rod who's got to calm things down.
It's Rod. Rod, he's manning the grill, and he's keeping his eye on all you troublemakers. Don't run around the pool, says Rod. Okay, well, that concludes our discussion of UFC 279. Again, all things told, there's plenty of things to interest you about this card. Don't buy it. You know, like this isn't worth $87 or whatever it's going to cost at the end of the day to see a series of fights, the vast majority of which have absolutely zero impact on the fighters involved, their careers, or the divisions in which they fight. And the main event, unfortunately, is the epitome of that judgment. But hey, if you have way too much money and you buy it, you're probably going to have a good time. You're going to see a lot of characters you recognize. You're going to see some fun fights. You're going to see some disgustingly violent squash matches. It's fine from that perspective.
It's got freak show appeal.
Yeah, it does. So that's it for this week's show. God, I hope that nothing dramatically has changed about this card, because there's no way to fix it now. If you just listened to a bunch of irrelevant tripe, other than, you know, the card as it was, then I apologize. We did what we can. I'm currently trying to enjoy my goddamn vacation. I don't want to have to think about you fucking pigs being upset about the slop I feed you. So
how did you blow that?
What?
I don't understand. Like, I was really thought you were like building up to it. I thought you were going to go for, if you just listened to a bunch of irrelevant tripe, you came to the right place.
Damn it, Phil. Damn it. Isn't even worth telling them to find us on Twitter now. They're not going to find anything on there as good as that. That's the show. It was the right place. Heavy hands. Tripe. Bye. That would have been really good. I'm so stupid. I'm dumber than Iwan Cutelaba.
Never say that, Connor.
Thanks, buddy.